Has the telecoms industry finally come up with a way to unlock the radio access network, seen by many as the last bastion of closed proprietary solutions? VMware and Deutsche Telekom have been collaborating on an open and intelligent vRAN platform based on O-RAN standards and using Intel's FlexRAN architecture to bring greater agility to radio access networks for both LTE and 5G. Joining me now to discuss the solution and the benefits it brings are Abdurazak Mudesir, who is SVP Technology Architecture and Innovation at Deutsche Telekom, Caroline Chan, VP and GM 5G Infrastructure Division, Network Platform Group at Intel, and Sachin Katti, who's VP Telco Strategy at VMware. Hello everybody, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Hi there.
Oh, pleasure. Abdu, let me start with you. Tell us more about this open vRAN platform that you first announced in February.
Yes, indeed, that was actually a great milestone for us and also for the industry. Why is it so? We were able to deploy in our lab here in Bonn the first vRAN platform using standard cloud platform coming from VMware, but also the FlexRAN from Intel, and most importantly also using, fully standard compliant, O-RAN standard compliant, and early implementation of the RIC, which allows for simple, intelligent management. This is a really important step for us towards the commercialization of the O-RAN-based virtual RAN.
And Abdu, why is this important for Deutsche Telekom? Why the move to investigate Open RAN?
I think that the most important fact is that we have seen all our adjacent industry moving towards cloud. There is this agility, speed, and innovation coming across the cloud players and also from the chipset industry. And in the RAN, we've had really competent and excellent vendors driving this closed RAN ecosystem. And I think by now innovating and widening or opening up the radio access network, we will have new players enriching the ecosystem and allowing us to really learn and utilize new technologies, both from cloud, but also startups such as, or smaller players like Mudesir, or startups such as Cohere Technology. And that's exactly why we are innovating and pushing. And ultimately, we believe it will provide us a TCO advantage, and it will provide us enhanced customer experience, including speed.
Well, let's hear how your partners have helped. Sachin, let's start with VMware. Tell us about how VMware has been involved in this project.
Thanks. So I think VMware, as Abdu mentioned, what we are trying to build here is a horizontal cloud architecture for allowing you to deploy various network workloads. And I think the final bastion, the final milestone here is being able to do that for radio access network functions, such as LTE or 5G base stations. And I think with Deutsche Telekom, what we are doing is building that cloud platform and showcasing that it is now capable of delivering O-RAN compliant virtualized radio access networks. And the other capability that we are collaborating with Deutsche Telekom on is on building this radio intelligent controller, the RAN intelligent controller that O-RAN is proposing to allow you to introduce new innovative technologies into the radio access network, which has been historically quite low. So VMware is kind of building two fundamental components to deliver on this O-RAN vision. One is the cloud, the horizontal cloud architecture to deliver data center economics and cloud agility into the radio access network. And two is the radio controller platform to open up the radio access network and enable new innovations that optimize spectral efficiency, reduce the TCO to be introduced more rapidly into the radio access network.
And Caroline, how has Intel been involved with the collaboration?
So, here at Intel, we've been working on this vRAN concept for a long time. We deliver both the hardware silicon platform, the CPU plus the right accelerators. And also, we've been working on a FlexRAN reference software stack, which has LTE and 5G. We just recently delivered URLLC and also TSN. The idea is to be partnering with the line minds like VMware and Deutsche Telekom, really started driving a cloud native all the way down into the network. Just like Abdul was saying, that there's a lot of goodness that we can gain from that: agility, flexibility, and where we believe that there is a TCO gain at the end. So we invested our resources, we invested a roadmap in order to really energize and help pushing this forward.
Caroline, can you tell us a little more about the FlexRAN architecture?
So the FlexRAN architecture is actually based on the Intel CPU with the acceleration built in. We are actually pipelining the LTE as well as the 5G layer 1 all the way through on top of the CPU, and with acceleration, we provide that as a license to our customers. They just sign a license agreement with us, and they will be able to use it to build up their final product. That's virtualized RAN, LTE, as well as the latest release 16 5G.
Great. Well, let's look a little bit more into O-RAN itself. I'd like to ask all three of you about how you're furthering the O-RAN mission. Sachin, what would you say are the main benefits of O-RAN?
I think the biggest benefit is really giving operators more choice into how they deploy the radio access network, right? So historically, the radio access network has been vertically integrated. All of the different components that you get are coming from a single vendor ecosystem. And O-RAN is driving disaggregation, right? So it's allowing more choice at every layer of the stack so that operators can pick the best of breed in each aspect. The second big benefit is really opening up the radio access network to be programmable and allow you to introduce new capabilities that optimize the network, deliver better capacity and latency, and so on. But I think more importantly, as 5G comes along and operators are looking to build and monetize new revenue streams on top of this 5G capability that they're deploying, O-RAN is providing the interfaces for you to enable, for example, enterprise services that take advantage of such programmability to deliver differentiated services on top of the network. So I think if I were to sum up, it's about disaggregation, it's about virtualization, enabling a very flexible, agile network, and it's about programmability so that operators can very quickly deploy new services and monetize their 5G investments much better.
And Caroline, can you tell us a little bit more about Intel's position on O-RAN, how and why you're supporting the initiative?
So we've been part of O-RAN from the early inception. We, just like Sachin was saying, we do believe that O-RAN is the right step forward for the industry to create a broad ecosystem, because we all understand that 5G is not just about smartphone. It's about going into the enterprise. It's about providing different level of services that DT is really driving forward. So we've been contributing our software, we've been contributing our expertise, especially around the virtualization layer, that how does that tie into the silicon. We actually supported some of the interoperability lab effort that's going on. We have people sitting on different subgroups and co-chairs and so on. So we wanted to see this being O-RAN being successful, and we want to see the ecosystem enlarge from beyond the traditionally telco is, and really bringing the level of developers and application services, because we are seeing a lot of the application services that needed in 5G really comes from outside of the traditional telco players. So we have to be driving that in order to grow this the level of the richness of the application that we need to make 5G ROI viable for companies like DT.
Great, and companies like DT. So Abdu, tell us more then. What advantages will an O-RAN environment ultimately bring to your customers?
So I think most important points were already mentioned by Caroline and Sachin, and they are indeed true, right? So the agility allowing us to really embark on new business opportunity and also cost cutting, and all of that is, TCO optimization, it's all there. But I think one thing that's not mentioned that I see it as an important aspect is also it allows us to introduce new operating model, which means today we have a vendor and let's say operator relationship where we buy a box, really deploy, and that's it. Now we go into more of a partner model where we really have to understand, work together with our partners and really also change how we are operating, which of course brings its own challenge. We need to have the right skill set, we need to have the right mindset, and of course we need to have the right mature ecosystem.
Great. And Sachin, for those other telcos that are considering O-RAN, what technologies are a precursor to the capabilities that O-RAN will unlock?
I think there are a few, and this is what we are collaborating with DT on, with Abdu's team. So the first one is around disaggregated radio ecosystem. So being able to build a platform, and this is what VMware and Intel are working on, to make sure that when you deploy radio hardware on the top of cell towers, that you have all of those different vendors' radio hardware be interoperable with the baseband software that is running on a cloud. The second, and I think this is a pretty important one, is how do you build a reliable compute substrate? So if you are going from purpose-built hardware to general purpose hardware that's being used for a variety of compute, and then you're overlaying a cloud substrate on top of it, but you want to use it for mission critical applications such as a base station, and these applications are also extremely latency sensitive. So how do you build a very reliable cloud that an operator like DT can trust to deploy a mission critical service like the radio access network connectivity on top of, right? So that's the second kind of enabling technology. And the last one, to kind of come back to Abdu's point about operating model and introducing more agility, is about what are all the interfaces that need to be specified, and then the management and control platforms that are supporting those interfaces and building that developer ecosystem on top to deliver all those new capabilities that we all hope will unlock new revenue opportunities for operators, right? So I'd say doing the interoperability with all of the different hardware pieces that are coming because of disaggregation, building a very reliable, high-performance cloud substrate for deploying mission-critical workloads, and finally, building the management systems with the appropriate interfaces so that you can drive new operational models and new innovations in this whole ecosystem.
Well, let's look ahead to the benefits that all this might bring to the industry. Caroline, how do you see the future of the Open RAN?
I think the Open RAN, like everyone's saying, ideally will open up a whole new ecosystem players. I think it's especially important if we think about what the 5G is going to have to do in the enterprise side. We've been seeing a lot of activities around V2X. We're seeing a lot of activities that inside industrial factories. In fact, Intel's being involved in several of them in Europe, in Germany. So you look at the ecosystem, it really went beyond what Abdu was describing, an operator and a vendor, a telco vendor relationship. We have interjecting so many new players in there without a open interface like O-RAN is prescribing and help drive. It's hard to see how would these developers really come in and start developing softwares with the confidence that you will get deployed just as well on the top of a cell tower and inside a factory floor or a retail factory or hanging on a roadside unit. So if we were going to embrace the idea that 5G brings a much bigger TAM, much broader ROI for everyone in the ecosystem, you have to think the path that O-RAN is advocating, the standards that they're driving is the right path to go.
Great. And Sachin, with these new players coming on board, with these new use cases we've been talking about, what type of new applications will an open virtual RAN enable?
There's so many that I think we can spend the whole interview talking about the use cases, right? So, but just to pick on a couple, I think the big vector that we should think about is enterprise use cases that are being delivered on top of 5G. And specifically, what I mean by that is where the definition of enterprise is not just your traditional IT enterprise, but it could be new enterprises like the factory floor, the warehouse, transportation, and so on. So fundamentally, think of services where instead of the application treating the network as a connectivity layer, there's actually APIs and integration between the application and the network so that you can deliver differentiation, you can deliver SLAs at an application layer. Right. So instead of an enterprise saying, let me buy connectivity and then let me just buy services from someone else, the 5G network is not just a connectivity service. It becomes a platform on top of which they can buy applications that or services that are differentiated, have SLAs associated with them that the network operator can stand behind. So I think use cases around smart factories, robotics, simpler things such as AR or VR, and not simpler in the sense of being able to deliver consumer video applications like that. So all of these are services that are coming on top of such a platform.
And Abdu, a final question to you. What are the next steps that are required for Deutsche Telekom and its customers to realize the benefit of this solution?
Yeah, I think the first thing is we still have to continue to drive the ecosystem into maturity. Right? There's still questions around performance that we have shown already in the first stage. That's a right path, but there's still room to work on. We need to make sure that there is certain level of feature parity, even if it's not one-to-one copy. And that's something we need to still continue to drive. We need to also solve the integration complexity. I think it's not possible that the integration complexity gets dumped to an operator because we don't have the capability. But this is not what we're doing. I really appreciate what we are pushing together with the partners in terms of open interfaces, easy integration, and easy management. And that's still a room to be worked on. And that's why we at Deutsche Telekom also set up a lab in Berlin where we are allowing for smaller players and big players, all ecosystem players, to come and really test in our environment, an OT club in Berlin, and even offer certification together with vRAN. So, and that's something we will continue to encourage, but we need to still work with the community.
Well, Abdu, Caroline and Sachin, thank you all very much for joining us and sharing your insights on not just vRAN, but the intelligent virtual RAN platform. Thank you.
Thank you.